In October 2024, 28-year-old Claire Bennett moved into apartment 12B of an aging residential building in Brooklyn, New York. According to people who knew her, there was nothing particularly unusual about the move. Claire had recently started a new job in Manhattan and wanted a quieter place to live. Apartment 12B was small but affordable, and because it was located on the top residential floor, she believed it would also be relatively quiet. For approximately 2 weeks, it was. Then, on the night of October 15th, something happened that Claire would later describe to several people. At approximately 3:17 in the morning, she woke to the sound of something being dragged across the floor above her bedroom. Claire initially assumed it was furniture. She described the sound as slow and heavy, similar to a wooden table or chair being pulled across an uncarpeted floor. A few seconds later, she heard footsteps. They appeared to move from one side of the ceiling to the other. There was one obvious problem with this. Apartment 12B was located on the highest occupied floor of the building. There was no apartment above Claire. According to the building's current layout, there was only the roof. Claire apparently didn't consider the first incident particularly serious. She mentioned it in a text message to a friend the following morning, joking that someone seemed to be rearranging furniture on the roof. But the following night, it happened again. At 3:17 a.m., the same dragging sound, the same footsteps, except this time, according to Claire, the footsteps stopped directly above her bed. Several seconds later, she heard 3 distinct knocks coming from the ceiling. Claire turned on the lights. The noises immediately stopped. The following morning, she reported the incident to the building superintendent, a man identified in later accounts as Robert Harris. Claire asked whether maintenance workers had been on the roof during the night. Harris reportedly told her no. When Claire explained what she had heard, his response was unusual. According to a message Claire sent to her sister later that day, Harris told her, "Old buildings make noise. Ignore it." Claire continued asking questions. She wanted someone to inspect the roof. Harris refused. Before ending the conversation, he allegedly gave Claire one additional warning. Don't go yet looking for where it's coming from. At the time, Claire apparently assumed he was simply being dismissive. Later, that conversation would become one of the most disturbing details of the case. For the next 4 nights, the noises stopped. Then, shortly after 3:17 a.m., on October 21st, Claire heard them again. This time, she decided to record them. A 47-second audio recording later recovered from her phone captured several low scraping noises, followed by what appear to be footsteps. Claire can be heard whispering in the background. But there is something else on the recording. Near the end of the file, a faint female voice appears beneath these other sounds. The voice says a single word, Claire. According to Claire's sister, Claire didn't notice the voice until the following morning, when she listened to the recording through headphones. That appears to be the moment when Claire began seriously investigating the building. Public records showed that the property had been constructed in 1928. The building had undergone several major renovations, including one in the early 1970s. Claire eventually located what appeared to be an older architectural plan of the building. When she compared it to the modern layout, she noticed a discrepancy. The current building contained 12 residential floors. The older plan contained 13. Above Claire's apartment was a narrow additional level, and on that level was a single residential unit. Apartment 13B. No apartment with that number appeared anywhere in the building's current records available to tenants. The elevator had no button for the 13th floor. The stairwell ended at 12 before continuing to a roof access door. As far as Claire could determine, apartment 13B no longer existed, but it apparently had existed once, and that led her to another discovery. Claire found an archived newspaper report from 1971 concerning the disappearance of a 26-year-old woman named Evelyn Ward. Ward had reportedly lived alone. Her listed address was apartment 13B. According to the article, Evelyn disappeared during the night under circumstances that investigators were unable to explain. There were no signs of forced entry. Her coat was still inside. Her purse had not been taken, and neighbors reportedly saw nothing unusual. One detail, however, appears to have caught Claire's attention. In the days before Evelyn disappeared, a neighbor claimed she had complained about repeated noises inside her apartment late at night. Footsteps, knocking, and what she believed was furniture being moved. The similarity to Claire's own experience was difficult to ignore. Claire returned to the superintendent. This time, she brought the old floor plan with her. According to Claire's later messages, Harris initially denied knowing anything about apartment 13B. When Claire showed him the document, however, his behavior changed. He reportedly told her that the upper level had been sealed during renovations decades earlier. Claire asked why. He wouldn't explain. She then mentioned Evelyn Ward. Harris ended the conversation. But before leaving, he reportedly told Claire, "If you hear something upstairs again, stay in your apartment." Then he added, "Do not go onto the roof." 2 nights later, Claire called the police. The call was made shortly after 3:20 a.m. Claire reported that an unidentified red liquid was dripping through the ceiling above her bed. 2 officers responded to the building. What happened during that visit remains one of the strangest parts of the account. The officers reportedly inspected both Claire's apartment and the roof. They found no obvious source for a leak. There were no pipes directly above the area Claire identified. There was also no visible liquid on the roof. By the time the officers returned to Claire's bedroom, the dripping had stopped. Nothing else was discovered. No intruder was found, and there was no evidence that anyone had recently accessed the roof. By this point, Claire had apparently decided to leave the apartment. On October 25th, she told her sister that she planned to stay in a hotel while looking for another place to live. Her suitcase was partially packed, but she never made it to the hotel. Shortly before midnight, Claire sent her sister a message. It read, "I found the entrance." Her sister asked what she meant. Several minutes later, Claire responded, "It's inside my closet." That was the last confirmed message Claire Bennett ever sent. The following morning, Claire failed to answer repeated calls. Her sister contacted police. Officers entered apartment 12B. There was no sign of Claire. Her suitcase was still inside, so were her wallet, identification, and several personal belongings. There was no obvious indication of a struggle. Claire's phone was eventually located on the bedroom floor. Investigators found a video recorded at 3:17 a.m. The recording was approximately 11 minutes long, and its contents raised questions that have never been adequately explained. The first part of the video shows Claire standing inside her bedroom. She appears nervous and repeatedly points the camera toward the closet. The clothes have been moved aside. Behind them is a small wooden door. Claire can be heard saying, "That wasn't there before." She opens it. Behind the door is a narrow staircase leading upward. Claire begins climbing. The staircase appears old. The walls are unfinished. There are no visible windows. After approximately 1 minute, Claire reaches another door. She opens it. On the other side is a corridor. The hallway does not resemble any known section of the building. The wallpaper appears old. The floor is dark wood. Several wall-mounted lights are visible. At the far end of the corridor is a door. Claire approaches it. The number attached to the door is clearly visible in the recording, 13B. At this point in the video, Claire stops. A scraping noise can be heard from inside the apartment. It appears to be identical to the sound she had previously recorded above her bedroom. Then a female voice says her name. Claire. Claire asks, "Who are you?" There's no immediate response. Several seconds pass. Then the voice says, "You took long enough." Claire begins backing away from the door. The voice speaks again. "Finally, you found me." The phone suddenly falls to the floor. For several seconds, the camera records only the lower section of the hallway. Then the door to apartment 13B opens. A person steps outside. At first, only bare feet are visible. Then the figure moves closer. Investigators examining the recording reportedly isolated several frames in which part of the woman's face can be seen. The resemblance to Claire is extremely close, but there's an obvious problem. Claire can still be heard behind the camera. The video ends several seconds later. Claire is never seen leaving the corridor. After examining the recording, police searched apartment 12B again. They inspected the closet shown in Claire's video. There was no wooden door. There was no staircase. Behind the closet was a solid wall. The roof was searched again. Nothing resembling the hallway seen in Claire's recording was located. Investigators also reviewed the building's renovation history. Older documents appeared to confirm that an additional level had once existed above the 12th floor. Exactly what happened to that level remains unclear. Officially, it had been removed or incorporated into later renovations. But if that was true, it raised an obvious question. Where was Claire when she recorded the video? Claire Bennett was never located. No confirmed sighting of her has ever been reported. And no physical evidence has emerged explaining how she could have left the building without being seen, but the story doesn't end with her disappearance. Approximately 3 months later, apartment 12B was rented again. The new tenant reportedly knew nothing about Claire Bennett. For more than 2 weeks, nothing unusual happened. Then one night, he woke to a noise above his bedroom. He checked the time, 3:17 a.m. According to his account, something heavy was being dragged slowly across the floor above him. Then he heard footsteps. They moved across the ceiling and stopped directly above his bed. A few seconds later, he heard a woman's voice. It whispered his name. The tenant left apartment 12B the following morning, and according to later accounts, he never returned. Whatever happened to Claire Bennett, the most unsettling question isn't simply where she went. It's what she found above the 12th floor, inside an apartment that officially doesn't exist. Subscribe to my channel for more mystery cases. See you in the next video.